Environmental ethics, issues and possible solutions. Here we will discuss about environmental ethics, resource conservation and equity issues. Environmental ethics. It is connected with the fundamental rights of man for life and welfare. Its need is to keep nature's resource for today's requirement and also preserving it for the future generation. Environmental ethics deals with how we utilize and distribute resources. It includes the rights of all living beings to live and keep up the ecosystem. Therefore, it deals mainly with the following: resource conservation and equity concerns between countries and between urban and rural. Resource conservation. It is the inequality of the distribution of nature's resource that leads to various competitions. This inequality is the reason for the differences between nations, haves and the have-nots, rural and urban community, rich and the poor. The reason for all environmental problems is the consumption of the rich and the developmental activities by exploiting the poor. Ethical issues that are related to environmental concerns are: environmental destruction is largely caused by the consumption of the rich. The worst sufferers of environmental destruction are the poor. Even among the poor, the worst sufferers are the marginalized cultures and occupations, and most of all, women. Even where nature is being recreated, as in afforestation, it is being transformed away from the needs of the poor and towards those of the rich. There cannot be proper economic and social development without a holistic understanding of society and nature. If we care for the poor, we cannot allow the gross nature product to be destroyed any further. Gross nature product will be enhanced only if we can arrest and reverse the growing alienation between the people and the common property resources. It is totally inadequate to talk only of sustainable rural development as the World Conservation Strategy does. We cannot save the rural environment or rural people dependent on it unless we can bring about sustainable urban development. Urban people should be taught the importance of preservation of natural resources than the village folk. The conservation of common property resources also should be one of our aims. Equity issues. According to Daniel D. Chiras, 3 ethical principles related to environment are intergenerational equity, intragenerational equity, and ecological justice. Intergenerational equity. Fairness to future generations. Present generations have an obligation to meet their needs in ways that do not foreclose on future generations. Intragenerational equity. Present generations also have an obligation to act in ways that do not prevent others who are alive today from meeting their needs. Ecological justice. Human actions should not endanger other species, which also have an inherent right to resources they need to survive. It also concerns with who owns resources. Today, economically advanced nations are exploiting the world's resources along with the developing countries. Growing urbanization also identifies it. What are the possible solutions? In fact, for the preservation of nature's resources, equal division is needed. There should be appropriate efforts from the part of government for this conservation of natural resources. We need an institutional management policy to preserve the resources of village areas and to provide the necessary things to the urban society also. The city people should be made aware of the preservation of natural resources. At the same time, village folk should be taught about global warming, climate change, and the selection of suitable cropping pattern. A sustainable ecosystem that preserves the resources for the future generation should be farmed and living things be executed. All the living beings also have rights to enjoy the earth as human beings do. The existence of human beings in an ecosystem depends on these living beings also. Plastic that harms the nature must be reduced maximum. Awareness regarding the necessity of energy and water conservation, waste management and pollution control must be created in the people, and local government, education institutions and others must take the leadership and act. Thank you.